All right. So I guess let's start off real quick. Can everyone hear me if I talk like this, or do I need the mic? Everybody good?
Hear you. Sound pretty good.
All right. Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah.
I'll just hold it. It's like I'm official. All right. So, thanks everyone for coming tonight. My name's Adam Hayes. I'm on the brand side for Jack Daniels, more specifically with Jack Daniels Single Barrel, which is what we're going to be tasting tonight. Joined here with Maureen Petrosky. She's our lifestyle and entertainment expert. She's really the one everyone came to see. So, real quick, we'll give just a quick introduction about how this content series came to be, and then we'll do a quick tasting, and then you'll go get to see Maureen do the really cool stuff that she does. So, real quick, how this sort of came to be is that my boss and Maureen sort of began working together and sort of realized that some of the greatest moments in life are that the times that we spend with family and friends. And for those who like to host, sometimes it can be a bit challenging. We don't have the time, or maybe in my case, the expertise, to really put together those Pinterest-worthy events. And so the thought here was that we would share with our friends at Jack Daniels sort of these great, delicious, yet approachable hosting solutions. So we partnered with Maureen, and she's going to chime in, I'm sure, every once in a while as I talk. But really, she gave us some great tips and thoughts along the way. One of the things that I know Maureen is passionate about is fresh and quality and seasonal available ingredients. And while that's great, it really aligns with us because we at Jack Daniels feel very passionately about that as well. Whether it's the grains, the high quality grains that we choose, the water source in which we get our limestone cave that we get our iron-free water and mineral-rich water, to the handmade barrels that we actually mature our whiskey in. So that aligns very well. One of the other things that Maureen is passionate about is sort of keeping things simple.
Yeah, obviously. I'm not going to do it, right? It has to be simple.
So some of the great tips that she shared with us, I'm sure she'll share with you all tonight, is just the idea of keeping it simple, picking delicious yet approachable type of recipes, also doing things that complement each other, like if you're going to have cocktails and appetizers, sort of having some combined ingredients that are going to go in both. Not only will they complement one another, but it'll save you on your shopping list. The other thing that does, which I think is pretty interesting, is that Maureen pointed out that it also keeps you out of being in the kitchen the whole time, right? We're there to spend time with friends and family. We're not there just to spend the whole time checking off to-dos in the kitchen. So the other point that really brings Jack Daniels into this picture is that we wanted to help our host and hostess take their whiskey game to the next level. We know that when you use high-quality ingredients like Jack Daniels Single Barrel, it produces some of the best cocktails to be made. So, and here's the best part. Who would have thought when you're having a party to put Jack Daniels Single Barrel Select into a sangria? But as you all tasted, it's delicious. So, Maureen really brought to the table the ability for us to share out delicious cocktails, delicious pairing appetizers and meals, so that it makes sort of our lives easy and allows you all to go out and enjoy Jack Daniels Single Barrel. So that's how this came to be. Any additions to that?
Just that I like everything to be pretty also. So I think that everyone in this room, has their own aesthetic, but all of the food and drink has to be really beautiful too, because it's simple to have a beautiful life. And I think that when I first met with the Jack Daniels team, that was one of the things I was saying is it's simple to have a beautiful life. You don't have to be a chef. You don't have to be an entertaining expert. You don't have to be a mixologist. Anybody can do this. You'll see we have beautiful flowers around. We do the same thing every party that we host. There's pretty flowers. As soon as you walk in, you feel like it's a little bit special. You have a pretty drink that tastes good too. And this one in particular, this is the sangria. The first one you guys got to taste. Did anyone not get it? I saw a few people coming late. We need a couple sangrias over there. Okay, can we get a couple more of those, Will? Will's behind the bar, so if you need anything, you can holler at him throughout the night. But the sangria is just, it's pretty. It's got some pomegranate seeds in it, and it's pretty simple. There's apple cider. We talked about seasonal. There's sparkling wine in there, and then instead of traditionally using a brandy, we're using a whiskey instead. And the single barrel bottles themselves are just gorgeous. They're back here too for all of you to take photos of if you want. Those cut crystal bottles look great on any bar. Again, you don't have to know how to make one drink at all. You can just pour that over rocks with some bitters on the side, and you're entertaining already. So we're going to drink a lot of drinks tonight. We're going to take you through the whiskey tasting. By show of hands, how many of you are whiskey drinkers? That's a good amount for a group. That's perfect. How many of you have been to a formal whiskey tasting before? Okay, that's great. Perfect. All right. I like more that most of you haven't, so we're going to talk you through that too. And we're going to taste 3 different things now, and Adam's going to walk you through the 3 expressions that are in the portfolio here for the single barrel.
Yes. So, real quick, we're just going to play a quick interactive game. Can anyone give me sort of the 4 or 5 things that you have to, the requirements that you have to be considered a bourbon in the United States? Anybody?
Using the oak.
Does have to be matured in a new charred oak barrel. Sorry? See, that's one of my favorites. So I'm a Kentucky boy. She said it has to be made in Kentucky, which is absolutely not true. But
Is bourbon a percentage of corn?
it is. So I'll run it down real quick. To be a bourbon, you have to be made of at least 51% or more corn. You have to be distilled at less than 160 proof. You have to enter a barrel at less than 125 proof. You have to be matured in those new charred oak barrels. And then you have to be bottled at no less than 80 proof. So that's what it takes to be a bourbon. So why am I telling you that? Because Jack Daniel's isn't a bourbon. It's because we meet all those same requirements, except we go through one more step. And at Jack Daniel's, we go through a process that's called charcoal mellowing, which means that we take these big bricks of maple wood, we burn them down to charcoal, and then we drip every drop of our whiskey through 10 feet of that sugar maple charcoal. Wow. And what that does is it actually mellows the whiskey. So it actually removes fusel oils and some other harsh characteristics that were created during fermentation and distillation. So it actually mellows the whiskey. So we actually have another product that we're not going to taste tonight, but that actually goes through that process twice, and that is our Gentleman Jack product. So I thought we'd start off before, I'm just going to keep talking so that you all can't taste it. I thought real quick we'd go through a quick rundown of what brings flavors to whiskey, and then we'll actually taste the 3 whiskeys. So the flavors that are going to come from this glass, or the flavors that are going to come from the product that's in your glass, come from one of 5 sources. That being the water, the grain or mash bill, the fermentation process, which actually is where alcohols or grain is turned into alcohol, the distillation process, and the maturation process. So, Jack Daniel's was created in 1866. He was a young man, and he actually moved to the town of Lynchburg for one reason, and that was its water source. So, there in Lynchburg, at the distillery, is our cave spring. It flows at 56 degrees all year long. Most importantly, though, it's iron-free, because you can't have iron when you're making whiskey. It actually will turn it black. But it's full of minerals as well. So that was the reason Jack moved to that location. So obviously one was the water source. The second thing that brings flavor to the whiskey is the grain bill, or mash bill as we call it. So we're made of 80% corn on the Jack Daniel's Single Barrel Select and the barrel proof, 12% malted barley, and 8% rye. Why do you care? Well, because corn actually will bring a sweetness to the whiskey. Malted barley will bring sort of a nuttiness and some earthy characteristics. And rye will bring a big, bold, spicy characteristic. You'll notice that we don't use a lot of rye in Jack Daniel's. It's only 8%. So relatively, it's a pretty balanced and sort of mild whiskey. All of that said, we turned that on its head when we created Single Barrel Rye, which is actually 70% rye, 12% malted barley, and 18% corn. So we're going to taste all 3 of those tonight. Fermentation, I'm just going to touch on the last 3. Fermentation, what's important there is that that's what actually converts the grain to alcohol. So to do that, you need yeast. And you can buy freeze-dried yeast or sort of just purchase yeast on the open market, but we at Jack Daniel's propagate our own every day, which means that we grow it, we produce it, and that yeast actually is what brings a lot of flavors to the product. So yeast will bring floral notes, fruit notes, lots of types of those notes that you'll taste in this product tonight. Fourth would be the distillation. We at Jack are proud to say that we are one of the few distilleries that use 100% copper stills. And so while it may not sound like a lot, copper actually acts as a catalyst and is an agent that helps remove some harsh chemicals that can be made during the distillate process. And then what really sort of brings us all together tonight is the barrels. What makes single barrels so unique to all of our other whiskeys is that it celebrates the uniqueness of every barrel. No two barrels will mature the same, no two trees are the same. So each barrel will impart its own flavor into that barrel. And the way that it imparts it, the way that it is matured in the barrel, is that heat causes whiskey to expand into the pores of the wood, and coolness will contract it back out. So as it moves in and out of the pores of the wood, it's gaining flavor and color. So lots of people say, well, how long has it been aged? Well, it's actually not about the length of time for us that it's been aged. It's about the amount of interaction that whiskey has had with the wood. So you'll notice that single barrel is a very dark, rich amber. It's going to get about 60% of its flavor and all of its color from that barrel. So it's so important. And what makes this product so different than regular Jack Daniel's is that we pull it from one single barrel in the very, very top parts of our warehouses where it gets the hottest. So it's going to get the deepest penetration into that barrel. With Jack Daniel's, typically we'll batch barrels together, whereas this one we pull it one barrel at a time. So, show of hands, have I talked enough and are we ready to start? So I think we're going to start with single barrel select. So that's the one I believe on your far left. Yes. So as I mentioned, this is the same mash bill as Jack Daniel's, but it's matured longer and in the hottest parts of the warehouse. You're going to notice that with Jack Daniel's, both select and barrel proof, you're going to get lots of sweet notes. Caramel, vanilla sort of hits you immediately. A little bit of toasted oak. Feel free to swirl it and then take a small sip. This is 94 proof, by the way, so you're gonna wet your palate a little bit before you go taste it.
And give it a couple sips before you make up your mind, because you just had a different drink. And you had something to eat, so don't judge it on its first sip. Always give it 2 or 3 sips. And these are sipping. These are definitely not, you're not taking shots, girls, okay? So you might want to do something right now, but if you've never done a whiskey tasting before or a spirits tasting, like you said, this is 94 proof, there's a lot of alcohol here. You do want to smell it with your nose in there, but you can get a lot of fumes. So be careful. Don't try to knock yourself out. You know, I do like the flyby, you know, get it under there. And then also, if you can't smell anything besides just the alcohol fumes, smell your hand, or smell your hair, or smell something different to refresh your olfactory system, because you can deaden it after all the smelling of all the alcohol fumes, and then go back in and try to smell again, and try to see if you can identify some of those things that Adam was talking about, the nuttiness, the sweetness, caramel, a lot of the things that are coming from that oak. And then also, I want to also say that it's really helpful if you put the tip of your tongue on the outside of your glass, not your whole tongue like that, like just a little tiny tip of your tongue, because then you are kind of bypassing where the alcohol is going to hit the front of your tongue, and you're aiming for the mid palate, and then it's going to go right down the sides. You're going to feel it in your cheeks. You're going to let it go down. Pay attention to the finish. The finish is probably the most important thing. That just means, do you want to have another sip of it? Did you like it? Did it taste good? Did it make you feel good? And then do you want to have another sip? So tongue on the outside of the glass, ladylike, not crazy. Give it a couple of sips. And then make sure that as we go through, you are drinking your water also.
So I would say, to Maureen's point, definitely go back and get a second small sip, because that first one is a shock to your system. And that second one definitely goes down much, much smoother. So I'm actually going to jump protocol here, and we're going to skip over to barrel proof, because I think it's important before we get into that spicy ride to stay down this sort of mellow path. So, did you guys check what the proof was on the barrel?
Barrel proof on this one's going to be 64.
That's the percentage. 128, 129. So
Skipping to what?
barrel
Barrel
proof
proof, the last
is just like the name says. So we put it in that barrel at 125 proof. We let it sit up there for several years. When we pull it out, the alcohol content is actually increased because there's been evaporation, what we know as the angel share. And really what's being evaporated out is water, which is causing that alcohol content to go up. So this is the same mash bill, the same barrels that for select, but we're going to give it to you served at, I believe they said 128, 129 proof. So very hot. But I will say take a small sip. It's amazing how sort of mellow this particular product can be.
So smooth. And we talk about this collection as a single barrel collection. In the grand scheme of things, as the distiller goes, the distiller is like, the chef. He's tweaking things at the end. He's deciding which barrels are going to be used for the single barrel. This whole collection is like his children. I mean, he really takes a lot of care, in every single bottle that he chooses to, or barrel that he chooses to be a single barrel. And if you talk to him, these are his favorites that he's making. I mean, this is really a very special tasting to be able to have all three of these side by side and get to pick your favorite, because it would be kind of expensive if you went and bought all three bottles by yourself. But that's why you do things like have a cocktail club, invite your friends over, drink, get all three bottles, you all chip in and can taste everything together. And then once we taste these, you're going to taste a cocktail with this also. One thing that I smell immediately, I don't know about anyone else, but I got more of a toasted marshmallow.
Yeah.
There is a sweetness, but that toasted, like
This
a
one's so-
charred
this one a lot
marshmallow,
better.
you almost can smell the
No,
char.
I like this one as well.
In this
Single
one.
barrel.
And the fun thing also about the single barrel collection is they are all different. They're not going to be exactly the same. They're going to have
I
the
like this
same
one better than that.
profile, but they're not going to be exactly the same because barrel to barrel, they're a little bit different. And they don't get blended. It's all coming from one single barrel. So just by a quick show of hands, everyone tasted both, yes? Who preferred the first whiskey? Okay, a couple. And a second whiskey? And the rest of you liked all of them, right?
You're like, oh.
You're one more.
So the last one that we're going to taste is single barrel rye. This product came out last year. Like I said, this has got 70% rye. So this one's going to have a bigger, bolder flavor. You still get on this one a lot of the sweet notes.
This is your third whiskey, so if you're not smelling anything, again, if you're just smelling alcohol, smell your hands. I know that's a weird thing, but we do that. When we evaluate, professionally when we sit down and evaluate, 30 or 40 spirits at a time, you really do deaden your senses. So you learn all these weird little tricks like that. So.
Is it, sometimes they have coffee beans, is that
Coffee
good?
beans, yeah. Just something different. You're just kind of like reinvigorating your.
So did everyone get sort of that spicy finish on there?
Oh yeah,
This one smells spicier.
yeah, I got spicy.
So before we start passing out the cocktails, does anyone have a question? What's that?
We're gonna have the cocktails next.
Oh, okay.
I actually like that one better than that. Maybe it's because I've had more.
I don't know. This one seems a little bit more mild. The other one,
Yeah.
the last one I liked, but it was
Sweeter.
still, it was sweeter and it still had that punch to it. This one is more kind of a subtle.
Very subtle.
Yes, it's a subtle.
Oh yeah, we took a big
Yeah. I put it on my last one, so I'll just read it.
A little bit of water.
Yeah, this one, the single barrel rye, it's
So one
more
thing
of a
that
subtle.
one of our guests is mentioning that she notices a huge difference when you add just a little bit of water to the whiskey. It definitely changes it, and it's a different way to drink it. So you might typically just have it on the rocks or have it neat like this. But if you add just a little bit of water, sometimes you'll see it'll even cloud up. It blooms. It does change and open up pretty quickly when you add a little bit of water to it, and not a lot, just a little. Like she was saying, a drip or two, and that was it for her. And then she could really get a better feel for it. So if you're struggling to identify anything or pick your favorite, you might want to play around with that too. This is a really relaxed tasting. This is for you to find out what you like and what you don't like. This is not, you're not going to be tested, or quizzed, maybe.
She says that. I'm
Yeah.
taking tests as well.
But so we want you to have fun with it and experiment. So whether it's in a cocktail or straight or with a little water, there's no wrong way to
Wait a
drink.
minute, this is smoother.
Any other questions? I thought there was one more. No. We also want you to have plenty of time to take pictures, so please, feel free. I think that we are going to move next, right? Okay, we're going to do a little video. So one of the things that when we partnered together, the Savor and Share series, we did a bunch of little videos. Everyone in here is a very visual person, You've been identified in this market as people that are influencers, that are at the top of your game and what you're doing, that you have an impact on what other people are talking about. And I'm a visual person too. And so one of the things, you'll notice you're all female in this room. I mean, minus all the guys we have with us.
Sorry, guys.
But there's a reason for that. I mean, whiskey traditionally is thought of as a guy's drink, and we just see more and more now that, women are drawn to it. I don't know why that stigma was on it that way. I mean, every lady in here is going to break through barriers and change things. Right? Advertising, you think, power in advertising. But, instead of going after the same exact market over and over and over again, why not go after a new market? And women love whiskey, so I want to be able to entertain with something that I like to drink. Thus, this first drink you guys have, that's a perfect big batch drink. The holidays are coming up. Put that in a punch bowl with some, you can even use dried cherries if you don't have pomegranates, and some sliced apples. It's beautiful on its own. It does double duty as a centerpiece and a great cocktail. If you big batch a drink, Will can attest to this, then you don't have to do all the hard work as everyone's coming in. You can actually let them serve themselves with that ladle that he was doing, and then you can enjoy it. Like Adam said before, I want you out of the kitchen, I want you at your own party, and that's why your friends are there to see you too. Yeah.
Could you also put frozen cranberries in the punch bowl just for?
I love frozen cranberries.
Okay, yeah.
I literally put them in everything and on everything. It's the fastest way to make something festive around the holidays. Keep rosemary and frozen cranberries at your house, and it's going to change your whole holiday entertainment. Awesome. So we're going to show you one of the videos that features the first drink that you had.
Need audio.
We were just kidding. We're just going to get started. Literally, when we started the series, one of the things that you talked about keeping your shopping list short, when we were brainstorming, we were trying to come up with ways that you can make one shop list and use that for both your drinks and your appetizers. And so a lot of these things came from that, because with apples and pomegranate seeds and, I bought all the apples already. I made the drink with apples, and then I made the little appetizer, which was really pretty, and it's so simple. Again, I am a trained chef, I am a certified sommelier, but no one needs to be those things. To slice some apples, slice brie, put it on a baguette with a little bit of honey. So you all are officially entertaining experts now. You can do this, it's fine. But you can just see, within 30 seconds, now you're throwing a party. That's it. I think we're going to show one more.
I'm Maureen Petrosky, and I'm an entertaining expert. The one thing you can always count on around the holidays are unexpected guests. But I've got lots of great tips and ways to keep last-minute entertaining fun and delicious. You don't have to stress out with last-minute guests. Just look and see what you have and work with it. For me, I looked under my bar and saw that I had 3 bottles of whiskey. Whiskey's not just one note. I'm serving a Jack Daniel's single barrel select. I'm also serving the rye and the barrel proof. So there's something for every taste. It's as simple as just putting that out with a selection of sparkling water and some simple garnishes like orange peels, lemon peels, and some candied ginger. And when you're stocking your bar, always get an assortment of bitters. It's like a bartender's salt and pepper, so your guests can personalize their drinks how it really like. Appetizers can be as easy as assembling some things from your pantry. If you stock up on things like pickled peppers and beans, different vegetables, keep some olives in the refrigerator, some meat and cheese, you're always ready to entertain. For me, I put together these antipasto pickups, which I like to have for my guests, skewers of just things I already had in my pantry and refrigerator. It looks fancy, but it's so easy. During the holidays, friends and family are always around, so keep a well-stocked bar and pantry for easy entertaining at a moment's notice.
So pretty, and nothing groundbreaking there, girls, right? We're making a drink, we're putting together some things, but that's why I love things like charcuterie and those little pickups that are beautiful and easy. You can keep meat and cheese in the refrigerator, keep some candied nuts and some dried fruits in your pantry, some olives. You are already ready to entertain. It's just that little bit of putting it together differently than putting out like the container of olives, you know. It just, one little tiny thing changes the way that people perceive what you're doing for them. And you do want your guests to feel special. That's part of entertaining. That's part of the fun of it too. But you can see, I did that, just put it on a cake dish. It wasn't like something I didn't have already. I just took it out of its packaging and we're putting it out. And we are going to move now to another location.
Just 1 second, I'll grab you ladies in just a minute when we're ready.
Yes, and we